There's a sobering truth that many would rather avoid, yet it must be declared. Evil dwells among us, not as horned monsters or fantasy beasts, but as individuals who disguise themselves with kindness. They shake your hand while secretly planning your downfall. They smile in your face while sharpening their words behind your back. These are not merely complicated people. These are not simply imperfect individuals. These are evil souls, and God urges you to recognize them, to steer clear of them, and to guard your spirit from their darkness. Make no mistake, not everyone in your life has been sent by God. Some are placed to derail you, to distract your focus, and to drain the very light God deposited within you. Yet, in His perfect wisdom, God has not left you unaware. He shows you signs. He gently speaks to your spirit with divine warning. If you ignore those signals, you invite chaos into your life. If you silence that quiet inner voice, you will carry the burden of relationships God never intended for you to bear. Evil is not a mere theory, a tale, or a symbol. It is a spiritual illness, a corruption of the heart that infects all it touches. It can dwell in a trusted friend, a workplace peer, a figure of authority, or even a member of your family. God instructs us to protect our hearts, for the heart is the source of life. If you allow evil people to plant their influence in your life, they will suffocate your joy, rob you of peace, and dismantle your destiny one piece at a time. God never intended His children to walk in blindness. He imparts spiritual insight to help you look beyond pleasant speech, beyond superficial charm, and beyond the false mask. Listen closely now, because what I'm about to say may challenge you. It might stir your spirit. It may bring faces to your mind, memories to your heart, and clarity to your confusion. The first mark of a wicked person is deceit. They are not who they appear to be. Their speech is smooth, but their heart is laced with manipulation. They behave as if they care, but their loyalty is shallow and fleeting. God clearly warns us, you will know them by their fruits, not by their compliments, not by their titles, not by their charm, but by their fruit. Observe the patterns. Look at the trail of confusion they leave behind. Notice the conflict they create. Where there is ongoing drama, gossip, slander, and unrest, their evil is at work. The second indicator is that they feed off your weakness. They are not strengthened by your success, but by your struggle. When you are in pain, they act concerned, but secretly gather information to use as a weapon. When you open your heart to them, they store your wounds, not to help you, but to control you. Such people never support your healing. They rely on your brokenness to maintain control. God has called you to walk in wisdom. Do not throw your pearls before pigs. Do not expose your wounds to those who delight in your scars. God's people must have the courage to walk away from those who feed on their sorrow. Evil individuals carry a spirit of blame. They constantly shift responsibility onto others and refuse to own their faults. They lie without effort. They distort the truth. They reshape the past to fit their narrative. And when God begins to promote you, they can't handle it. Their envy comes wrapped in friendly advice. Their jealousy hides beneath fake concern. But God sees every hidden motive. Your emotions, that is not love, it is bondage. And God has not called you to live under the authority of another person's grip. He calls you to stand in strength, to walk in mental freedom, and to refuse to let anyone enslave your soul. These people are without empathy. Their hearts are hardened. When you suffer, they remain indifferent. When you weep, they offer no comfort. Evil individuals are emotionally hollow. They witness your pain, yet feel no compassion. They hear your cries, but stay unmoved. Still, they expect your presence when they are in need. Through this absence of empathy, God reveals that their spirit is not in alignment with His, because those who truly walk with God are filled with mercy, kindness, and genuine love. But those overtaken by evil become desensitized to the suffering of others. There's another sign, perhaps the most alarming of all. Evil people are architects of division. They scatter seeds of conflict. They flourish in chaos. They manipulate both sides, ignite drama, and then step back to enjoy the fallout. God is not the source of confusion, evil is. So if your life is constantly overwhelmed with emotional unrest, betrayal, misunderstandings, and quiet battles, take a hard look around. Ask yourself, who have I welcomed into my inner circle? Who have I trusted that God had already warned me about? God is the God of stillness and harmony. Evil disrupts that harmony. It sends waves crashing through your spirit. And sometimes the only way to calm the storm is to eliminate the one who's stirring it. These people are tireless in their manipulation. They gaslight you. They make you question your own memories, your reality, even your sanity. They will wrong you and then expect you to apologize. They will inflict pain and then claim to be the victim. Evil distorts the truth until you no longer recognize yourself. And if you stay near such people long enough, they will eventually convince you that you're the problem. But God says differently. God calls you to walk in truth. He urges you to open your eyes and recognize that the enemy doesn't always arrive with a weapon. Sometimes he shows up with charm. Another trait of the wicked is pride. Arrogance is their native language. They refuse to yield, to apologize, or to consider another view. They elevate themselves and veil their pride beneath the disguise of false modesty. God opposes the proud. He warns us repeatedly that pride precedes destruction. Yet, evil clings to arrogance as if it were a shield. They will not admit their errors, ask for pardon, or even consider the possibility of fault. They exalt their ego, and in doing so, they close their ears to the voice of God. Do not entangle your spirit with the proud, for their path leads to downfall. Evil individuals remain unchanged, not because transformation is impossible, but because they reject it. God offers chances, delivers warnings, and extends grace. But rather than turning, they dig in deeper. Instead of repentance, they wear disguises. God is long-suffering, but he is not unaware. He allows space for repentance, but he will not permit evil to dominate indefinitely. And when you insist on clinging to someone God is trying to remove, you postpone your peace, delay your restoration, and hinder your breakthrough. At times, the bravest step of faith is releasing someone you deeply love because you know God is calling you to ascend. They despise the truth. The moment you speak it, their anger erupts. They attempt to silence you, distort your words, or shut down the conversation. Why? Because truth reveals darkness. It exposes it. It strips away its mask and lays bare what they are desperate to keep hidden. And so, they cannot endure people who live in truth. But you must never shy away from proclaiming it. God didn't call you to be quiet in the face of wickedness. He called you to stand strong, to be a light, to remain unwavering. Even if your voice trembles, they might speak of. God, recite holy verses and dress the part of the faithful. But the light of God is absent from them. For genuine intimacy with God produces gentleness, grace, patience, and uprightness. Yet evil wraps itself in religion to appear righteous while remaining rotten at the core. God is never deceived, and he doesn't want his people to be deceived either. They may quote sacred words, but their hearts are distant from the Lord. They might kneel in prayer, but their spirit stands defiantly in rebellion. Evil hides behind a costume of holiness, while their intentions drip with venom. God does not judge by surface appearance. He searches the soul. He discerns the hidden agenda. And in his timing, he reveals the reality behind the disguise. It is not enough to look godly. God demands authenticity. Evil may mimic worship, but it flees from true surrender. You see, evil fears being brought into the light because truth is its greatest threat. But in his mercy, God allows their masks to fall when your heart is prepared to see the truth. And once your eyes are opened, once the illusion vanishes and clarity arrives, you must not waver. Do not ignore what God has unveiled. Do not question his revelation. Evil flourishes in delay. It thrives in your hesitation, in your guilt, and in your habit of excusing what God is trying to eliminate. There are individuals in your life right now whom God never sent. They may have served a purpose for a season, but that time has come to a close. Yet you continue holding on, believing they will change, praying for their transformation. But God isn't calling you to fix them. He's calling you to guard what He has deposited in you. Many of you are weary, not from the path you're on, but because of the people you've brought along for the ride. Toxic individuals drain your spirit. They manipulate your compassion. They twist your love and use it against you. And if you aren't careful, they will reshape your identity to fit their agenda. Let this be clear. God never asked you to carry burdens He didn't give you. He hasn't appointed you to rescue those who refuse to be healed. Evil people prey on your empathy, but God commands discernment. Mercy does not equal naivety. Grace does not demand self-sacrifice. You can bless someone in prayer and still protect your soul from their reach. There comes a time in every believer's walk when peace is no longer optional. It becomes non-negotiable. You must defend your peace as if your life depended on it, because spiritually it truly does. God is not honored when you're bound to relationships that suffocate your calling. He is not glorified when your joy is sacrificed to accommodate dysfunction. Those who operate in darkness don't come dressed in evil. They come with flattery. They come bearing gifts, compliments, and false intentions. But God sharpens your vision beyond the surface. He trains your spirit to detect what your eyes can't observe. When someone's presence consistently drains your strength, clouds your thinking, or disturbs your peace, pay attention. That unrest is God's signal. Evil often repeats itself. The same heartbreak, the same argument, the same betrayal again and again. Why? Because evil doesn't evolve. It recycles. It thrives on repetition. And every time you allow it back in, its grip tightens. But God is a God of progression. He breaks toxic loops. He calls you out of the cycle and into freedom. As you grow in God, you'll notice certain relationships start falling behind. That's not pride, it's reality. It doesn't mean you're superior, but it does mean you're no longer aligned. God is shifting your direction. And with that shift comes separation. Some of you are mourning the departure of people who were never meant to remain. But their exit was never a curse. It was divine protection. God saw what you didn't. He overheard what you never knew. He discerned their true motives while you only saw their appearance. So He permitted each exit. He allowed the betrayal. He allowed the silence. And yes, it wounded you, but it preserved your purpose. Had they stayed, you would have given more, endured more, and lost even more of yourself trying to hold on to someone who was designed to dismantle you. But God, in His compassion, stepped in and removed them. And now He is calling you to walk in wisdom. Evil doesn't always arrive with noise. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it flatters, sometimes it blends so well that you barely notice. That's why you must stay rooted in God's presence. When your heart is aligned with His voice, you'll sense danger before it ever shows its face. God doesn't only guard with His power. He protects through insight. He reveals, He alerts. He places a persistent uneasiness in your spirit. Your responsibility is not to debate that feeling. It is to follow it in obedience. There is a holy responsibility that comes with being chosen. Evil often targets what God treasures. If you find yourself under relentless pressure, it's not because you're fragile, it's because you carry divine purpose, your peace, your light, your calling. These are threats to the kingdom of darkness. That is why God gives you spiritual discernment. But discernment means nothing without obedience. When God tells you to walk away, you must not hesitate. When He urges you to speak truth, you must speak it. When He tells you to guard your soul, you must deny access to anything that pollutes it. Evil looks for entrance through your emotions, through guilt, sympathy, and innocence. But when you stand in spiritual authority, you shut down every passage that darkness seeks. Do not confuse compassion with compromise. Sympathy is not meant to be your downfall. God never requires you to entertain darkness in the name of love. On the contrary, He calls you to resist it, expose it, and run from it. Evil thrives when left unchallenged. It grows in secrecy. But when you confront it, not with hate or vengeance, but with godly confidence, you remove its influence. You reclaim your authority. You return to alignment with heaven. And that is when true elevation begins. There are people who smile in your presence, but laugh at your downfall. People who cheer your failures and grow quiet when you succeed. They act like companions, but they secretly compete. These aren't minor flaws, they're indicators. God reveals their true nature, not so you will despise them, but so you will distance yourself, recalibrate, and continue walking without unnecessary weight. Some of you are spiritually stuck, not because you're unwilling, but because of who you're dragging behind. You're crying out for breakthrough while God is waiting for release. Remember this, not everyone who exits your life is a loss. Some are lessons. Some are divine releases. Some are disruptions that God himself has removed. You were never anointed to be everyone's deliverer. You were called to walk with the Lord. Those influenced by evil will guilt you for choosing peace. They'll call you unkind for setting limits. But God never asked you to wear yourself thin for someone he's asked you to walk away from. You are commanded to guard your heart, not to sacrifice it. Now, let me share a hard truth. Some of the people who have walked closest with you, those you've laughed with, cried with, and confided, have carried a spirit of darkness all along. You felt it. Something inside you always sensed it. That wasn't paranoia. That was the Spirit of God whispering truth. And now he's urging you to bring your actions into alignment with what your spirit already recognized. Trust that nudge. Trust that inner warning. Divine protection doesn't always look obvious. Some people carry curses, not because they are being attacked, but because they are the ones causing the damage. They walk in rebellion, cloaked in deception. They move through darkness while pretending to walk in the light. When you become entangled with them, their battles become your battles. Their chaos invades your peace. But God is calling you to break free, to step aside, and to choose truth over comfort. You cannot transform what you're still entangled with. You cannot walk in freedom while clinging to chains. Remember this. You are not assigned to rescue what God is in the process of removing. You are not called to console what he is confronting. Evil rarely exits quietly. It camouflages. It imitates what is good. But the fire of God reveals everything. And when that unveiling happens, don't resist it. Don't justify their actions. Don't return to what you once begged God to deliver you from. Keep moving forward. Follow God's instruction, even when it's painful. When God sets you apart, it's never to punish. It's to protect. He's safeguarding your destiny. He's guarding your purity. He's securing your peace. And if preserving these things means walking through a season of solitude, let it be so. It is better to walk alone with God than to journey with a crowd contaminated by evil. The crowd may roar, but it's often wandering. God isn't found in the noise. He dwells in stillness, in inner conviction, in moments of divine clarity. Choose that clarity. Choose obedience. Walk the narrow path that few dare to tread, because it is where God walks with you. There will come a time when you must stop questioning why betrayal happened and start asking why you ignored the signs heaven repeatedly gave. You have to learn to trust that quiet discomfort, that gentle alarm that stirred your spirit before the storm ever came. God never lets evil remain hidden forever. No matter how skillfully it's masked, no matter how charming the disguise, he will eventually pull back the veil. And when he does, your role is not to reason with what is revealed. Your duty is to respond. Delay can be dangerous. Every second you spend entertaining someone aligned with darkness is a moment spent outside the shield of God's covering. Evil doesn't always arrive with a bang. It creeps in subtly. It studies your patterns. It waits until you're weary and your guard is down. The evil targets not the strongest version of you, but the tired, discouraged, and distracted version. That's why God keeps urging you to stay awake, to remain spiritually alert. The most intense battles you'll face aren't physical. They're waged in your thoughts, in your spirit. And through your discernment, God equips you with the ability to recognize when something feels spiritually off. But when you dismiss that holy discernment, you expose yourself to paths you were never meant to take. The price of disobedience always exceeds the temporary comfort that comes from seeking approval. Many evil individuals won't come into your life to harm you right away. Instead, they arrive quietly, watching and listening. They show false concern. But beneath that surface lies a spirit of exploitation. They gather your pain like ammunition. They wait for moments when you're most vulnerable, then strike. That is not friendship. It is spiritual warfare. And once you recognize it, don't sugarcoat it. Don't spiritualize what is clearly toxic. God is never behind confusion. If your peace disappears every time they show up, that's not coincidence, it's a divine warning. If your clarity diminishes and your focus wavers in their presence, it's time to assess who you've invited into your inner circle. Understand this, not everyone deserves a seat on your journey. God's anointing over your life isn't for popularity, it's for purpose, and not everyone can handle that purpose. Evil always targets what it refuses to comprehend, but God is your protector. He is your covering. When others twist your intentions, question your heart, or belittle your progress, do not waver. Do not pour out your anointing, trying to validate yourself to people who were never assigned to support you. God will justify you. He will elevate you right before those expected your downfall. But that elevation cannot happen until you're willing to detach from those secretly holding you back. There are people with evil motives who only resurface when they sense a blessing approaching. They vanish during your trials, but return when things begin to flourish. Their loyalty is circumstantial. Their applause is hollow. They only support you when they feel superior to you. But God doesn't want you to share your breakthrough with those who would have watched you starve in your wilderness. Protect what He's given you. Guard your peace, your time, and your energy. God did not pour into you just for those who once wished you empty to benefit from your overflow. God blesses with discernment, not just favor. And discernment tells you, not everyone who celebrates you is truly for you. Those led by evil are skilled pretenders. They imitate righteousness. They speak spiritual language. They know how to appear holy, but their true nature is exposed by how they treat others, especially when they believe no one is paying attention. God watches behind the curtain. He observes their actions in secret. And when the time is right, He will reveal their true nature. He waits until your spirit is strong enough not to return to the very bondage He delivered you from. That is mercy. That is divine protection. That is strategic love. Don't feel guilty for releasing what God is removing. Your calling is too vital to waste it on distractions wearing the face of friendship. Some of you are just one act of obedience away from walking fully into what God has prepared. But you're still clinging to someone who embodies your past wounds. You cannot step into your future while carrying the burden of those who were never meant to come with you. God's plan is never hindered by their absence. It's only delayed by your reluctance to let them go. Stop grieving the departure of those who never honored the presence of God within you. Stop pleading for affection from hearts hardened by pride and stained by selfish ambition. God is revealing that your identity is not dependent on who stays. Your value is not diminished by those who fail to recognize it. People led by evil will try to reduce you to your lowest moments, but God sees your true nature. He understands your intentions. He never labels you by your failures. He defines you through your faith and perseverance. When toxic individuals leave, allow them to exit with their resentment, their false accusations, and their chaos. Your peace is far too sacred to be polluted. Your mental clarity is too important to be clouded by confusion. When God frees you from destructive connections, it is an act of mercy. The pain may sting temporarily, but healing always follows obedience. The longer you remain tied to the wrong people, the more you delay the blessings meant for you. It's time to release the hope that people will become what God already told you they are not. You've seen the evidence. You've felt the unrest. You've received the warnings. Stop demanding more signs. Begin walking in the wisdom God already placed in your spirit. You don't need closure to move forward. You need truth. And truth brings clarity when you stop fighting it and start submitting to it. You don't owe anyone an explanation for following God's direction. When He says go, you go, even if it means walking the path alone. People with evil motives resist boundaries. They despise accountability. They crave unrestricted access, yet reject correction. They demand loyalty, but withhold respect. And God isn't asking you to endure that. He is calling you to rise above it. You're not being unreasonable for seeking peace. You're not being selfish for protecting your space. You're being wise. You are honoring what God has cultivated in your life. When you guard your peace, you safeguard the voice of God that speaks in quiet places. When you remove evil influences, you create room for God to open. 8, and understand this clearly. Evil doesn't always attack head on. Sometimes it comes disguised as distraction. It wastes your time. It shifts your focus. It drains your strength. If it cannot destroy your purpose, it will attempt to delay it. So stay watchful. Be intentional with your choices. Time is a divine gift. Your energy is sacred. Your calling is not negotiable. You were designed by God for more than emotional conflict and spiritual struggle with those unwilling to mature. Let God take the lead. Let him reveal who is meant to walk with you. Let him cut away what hinders. Your peace is not a bargaining chip. You can walk in love and still walk away. You can extend kindness and still establish boundaries. You can forgive deeply and still protect your destiny. That is spiritual maturity. That is alignment with God, not out of fear or pride, but out of holy reverence for the divine calling he has placed upon your life. And now you must face a deeper reality. Evil doesn't always hide in distant places. Sometimes it dwells within those closest to your heart, a relative, a companion, or even a spouse. The ones you once trusted deeply may harbor the most harmful intentions. But just because someone shares your past doesn't mean they belong in your future. And just because you're related by blood doesn't mean your spirits are aligned. When God begins to cleanse your path, he doesn't preserve connection simply based on longevity. What matters most is not how long someone has been in your life, but where they are leading you. If their presence pulls you away from God's peace, his calling, or his truth, then God is asking you to release them. You weren't made to live under guilt. You weren't created to endure dishonor. You were never called to carry the burden of someone else's rebellion. Evil thrives when you lay yourself down to maintain false peace. But you were not placed here to be a sacrifice for someone else's chaos. You were created to stand firm, to discern wisely, and to separate when necessary. Yes, it may bring pain. Yes, there may be seasons of solitude. But God never takes without purpose. When he removes something, he replaces it with something greater. When he tears away what's false, he prepares your heart for what's sacred, what comes only from him. Evil doesn't desire the real you. It craves the version of you that's easy to manipulate. It wants the one who stays silent through offense, who tolerates the intolerable, who confuses weakness for humility. But God is raising you to walk boldly, with a voice, with clarity, and with power. And when you rise in that strength, evil will feel threatened. Don't minimize your presence to make others feel secure. Don't smother the flame God ignited in you just because it reveals the darkness in others. That light wasn't given to blend in. It was meant to shine, to divide, to expose, and to challenge what has been hidden in shadows for too long. The reality is, those under the influence of evil want the glow of your light without the weight of your truth. They want your time, but not your transformation. They want to enjoy your blessings without honoring the boundaries that protect your soul. But what God is doing in this hour isn't merely for your survival. It's for your sanctification. He is purifying your relationships. He is purifying your atmosphere. He is making sure that your next chapter is built on truth, not illusion. He is stripping away what's unholy so the divine can flourish in its place. Some of you are trapped in cycles of self-blame, regretting that you missed the signs, grieving over how long you stayed, or wondering if you could have fixed things. But listen carefully. God is not holding your past against you, transforming it. He's redeeming it. He's turning it into wisdom. Your discernment is sharper now. Your soul is stronger now. Your obedience has grown deeper. What was meant to destroy you became the very place where God trained your spirit to see clearly. And now it's time to walk in that wisdom. You must walk in courage. You must move like someone who understands that peace is not a luxury, it is your divine inheritance. Evil doesn't willingly leave on its own. It lingers until you grow numb to its presence. It disguises itself as familiar. But God allows discomfort to rise for a reason. He unsettles your spirit. He disrupts your rest and dysfunction. That isn't a curse. It's a divine alert. That restlessness is sacred. It's God awakening your heart to truths your emotions are trying to ignore. If you will honor that holy unrest and respond with obedience, your life will break free from years of needless battles. God does not take your destiny lightly. He's not indifferent to the path He carved for you. He is deeply committed to your calling, your peace, your purity, and your spiritual maturity. He will disrupt anything, even long-held relationships, to keep you aligned with His will. Release them. Bless them in your heart. But move on. This is not cruelty, it is obedience. The enemy often uses relationships just as effectively as he uses temptation. Evil individuals are frequently the vessels the enemy uses to whisper lies into your soul. Lies about your identity, your worth, and your future. But God is silencing those lies. He is clearing the confusion. He is reaffirming your identity. You are not called to instability. You were never created to live in emotional chaos. You are not someone's possession. You belong to God, and your life must mirror His truth. Stop inviting turmoil and calling it loyalty. Stop tolerating manipulation and naming it love. Stop enduring spiritual abuse and calling it long-suffering. God is not honored when you're crushed. He is glorified when you stand on truth, walk in authority, and protect the sanctuary of your soul. Darkness cannot remain where truth is present. It cannot endure where firm boundaries are upheld. It cannot survive where God's authority is honored. And don't be shocked when evil pushes back once you walk away. It will try to shame you, guilt you, and isolate you. But stand strong. Your deliverance is not negotiable. Your peace is not optional. God is your defender, but you must walk in step with Him. Do not go back to what He rescued you from. Don't try to revive what God has already buried. Don't pour into what no longer has life. What's behind you must stay behind. Now set your eyes forward. God is calling you to ascend, to rise in faith, in wisdom, and in unwavering obedience. But you cannot rise while clinging to those who choose stagnation. Release them. God will bring you connections that fuel your purpose, not your pain. He will surround you with people who sharpen your spirit, not sabotage your journey. He will bless you with companions who carry His nature, not just with words, but through their actions. There is no time to waste entertaining darkness. The hour is urgent. The world is growing darker. Your calling is urgent. And God is setting you apart for a purpose in this very season. You may not have fully grasped the pain, the betrayal, or the loneliness, but now you realize it wasn't rejection, it was divine redirection. God was rescuing you from evil's grip and establishing your footing on sacred ground. Now it's your time to rise. Rise with boldness, rise with unwavering resolve. Because when God uncovers the signs, He's not just giving you knowledge, He's extending an invitation to be free, to be restored, and to walk fully in step with the divine purpose you were created for. You were never meant to remain in the shadows of deception. You are fashioned by the hand of God to walk in truth, not to align yourself with those who defile your spirit. Evil may approach like a friend, but its trail always leads to destruction. And when God sharpens your spiritual vision, your responsibility is to act on it. This is not a time for hesita. This is not the season to coexist with toxicity. You must make a decision. Choose who has access to your spirit. Choose the kind of atmosphere you allow around you. Choose to live under the safety and clarity of God's truth. Wicked people flourish where there is no accountability. They avoid those who speak truth. They run from correction. They twist compassion and turn gentleness into a trap. But God is a righteous judge. He will not allow deceit to wear the mask of wisdom indefinitely. He may let evil go unchecked for a time, but not forever. Eventually, God draws a clear line, and when that line is drawn, the disguise is removed. He uncovers, he separates, he brings to light what was hidden beneath charisma. And you must not dismiss the revelation God offers you in those moments. You asked for truth, now embrace it. You cried out for direction, now walk in it. Some of you have allowed evil to remain because you feared letting someone go. But what if clinging to that person is the very thing delaying your breakthrough? What if God is waiting for you to release them before he unlocks the next chapter? You cannot bring corruption into a consecrated place. You cannot ask for God's peace while continuing to allow chaos in. The same God who offers mercy and restoration also calls his people to come out from darkness, not to punish, but to protect, not out of spite, but for sanctification. Those aligned with evil resist growth. They avoid introspection. They point fingers instead of accepting fault, and their presence slowly suffocates your spirit. It may seem subtle at first, but your vision begins to blur, your courage weakens, your voice grows quiet, your joy begins to disappear. That isn't living, that's spiritual theft. And God never intended for you to suppress your destiny just to keep others comfortable in dysfunction. You don't owe your silence to those who refuse to honor truth. You don't owe your peace to anyone who only brings conflict. This world often teaches you to be agreeable in the presence of evil. It urges you to preserve harmony, even if it means compromising your soul. But God calls you to rise above mere politeness. He calls you to stand in righteousness, to walk in courage, and to exercise holy discernment. There is no honor in enduring what God condemns. There is no virtue in remaining entangled with those who suppress the spirit God placed within you. Some of you are clinging to relationships that are sabotaging your destiny. But if God says the time has come to walk away, then move forward without regret, without explanation, and without delay. Don't be surprised when your choice to separate stirs discomfort. Evil detests exposure. It strikes back. It will twist the narrative. It will call your boundaries bitterness. It will label your strength as rebellion, but you must stay grounded and unwavering. God is your witness. He knows your motives. He sees the price of your obedience, and he will reward the sacrifices you make to remain in step with his purpose. Many of the most powerful breakthroughs in your life won't come by prayer alone. They will come through separation. When you remove the toxic connections, clarity returns. When you release manipulators, peace floods in. When you stop investing in lifeless relationships, healthy ones can begin to grow. God's blessings are abundant, but he won't pour them into vessels that cannot hold them. He won't grant lasting peace to someone who remains yoked to those who stir chaos. He won't give fresh vision to a soul entangled with someone who clouds spiritual sight. Those who walk in evil crave access. They desire to reach you at will, to drain your energy, to disrupt your focus. But God is calling you to fortify your gates, to protect your spirit, to set boundaries, not from fear, but from divine wisdom. Your time matters. Your soul is holy ground. Your presence carries weight. Not everyone is worthy of close proximity. Not everyone should know your next move. Not everyone should dine at your table. God is preparing you for something greater. And with that elevation comes a calling to guard what is sacred. And when you walk away, don't turn back. Don't replay the pain. Don't dwell on the offense. Allow God to mend the broken places and lay a new foundation. Evil often attempts to return, cloaked in apologies, disguised as change. But God doesn't just listen to words. He inspects the fruit. You'll know them by what their life produces. If their actions remain unchanged, then so do their motives. Don't be swayed by empty words. Look for evidence. And remember this, just because someone mourns the loss of control doesn't mean they ever truly valued you. Remain firm in your convictions, not prideful, but planted. Planted in what God has declared over your life, anchored in the peace he's provided, steadfast on the road he has drawn out for you. Because evil always seeks to chip away at your convictions, slowly, silently, persistently. But when your life is rooted in truth, evil cannot sway you. It cannot disguise itself to trick you. It cannot cross your boundaries unless you open the door. And today you must decide, the gates are shut. My peace is secure. My soul is shielded. My time is set apart for sacred use. God is not simply delivering you from evil, He's shaping you for divine assignment. And a key part of that process is purification. Allow Him to cleanse your environment. Allow Him to refine your connections. Let Him strip away every distraction, trap, and hidden danger. Trust Him even in your pain. Trust Him in the silence. Because separation is often the doorway to elevation. Sometimes God must empty your hands before He fills them with His best. You've asked Him for greater. Now prepare space for it. This is the hour to silence every voice that contradicts God's truth. This is the moment to disregard every opinion that pulls you out of alignment with His will. Now is the time to rise up in your God-given authority, not in fear, not in doubt, but with confidence, courage, and resolve. Those who operate in darkness rely on your hesitation. They rely on your willingness to give them another chance. But the moment you choose clarity and walk in boldness, the cycle ends. The stronghold is broken. The pattern is dismantled. And as this message reaches its conclusion, hear this. With all the weight of heaven behind it, you do not walk this road alone. The way may feel narrow. The climb may seem steep. But if God is your guide, you are lacking nothing. Do not fear the quiet that follows separation. Do not grieve the voices that once filled your space. What God is doing in you is sacred. He is removing what cannot follow you. He is pruning the dead weight so your life can produce lasting fruit. This is not punishment. It is preparation. This is not abandonment. It is realignment by divine design. You were never created to walk in endless cycles, to repeat the same heartbreak, to keep nurturing relationships that steal your peace. You were born to shine in God's light, to carry a divine assignment, to live with holy fire in your bones and spiritual discernment in your heart. And it all begins with one decision: the courage to let go, the boldness to embrace truth, and the faith to obey when it costs you comfort. Because your spirit is worth shielding, your purpose is worth guarding, and your future is worth protecting at all costs. Let today be the day you shut every door God never unlocked. Let this be the moment you choose purpose over popularity, clarity over comfort, and God's peace over pleasing people. You were never created to redeem evil. You were commanded to flee from it. You were never called to carry what God is removing. You were called to ascend. Ascend in wisdom. Ascend in strength. Ascend in obedience to the one who formed you, who sees you completely, who speaks truth over you, and who leads you faithfully. And when you ascend, don't look back. Okay. Don't second guess what God asked you to leave. Trust that when He removes something, it's not rejection, it's divine protection. The signs have been made clear. The mask has been taken off. Now walk forward with your eyes open, your heart guarded, and your spirit rooted in reverent fear and favor of the Lord. Let this be your proclamation: I will no longer give space to evil. I will not permit deception. I will not lose myself trying to please darkness. I belong to God. And where God dwells, darkness must vanish. Where truth stands, evil retreats. Where obedience rules, blessings are released. Move ahead, chosen vessel. Move with divine fire. Move with unshakable faith. Move with the authority of one who knows that God is on their side and no power of evil can prevail against that.